If you don't like big speeches but still care about real people, then tune in. If you don't want lectures but do want change, then listen. If you don't know where to start but want to help, stay right here. Mental health affects everyone, and migrants and teens can face extra pressure. First celebrated in 1992, World Mental Health Day is about education awareness ending stigma. This episode shares simple steps. Check in, listen without fixing, connect people to support. Resilience isn't silence. It's asking for help, sharing stories, standing together. Spread the word and be a face of resilience in your community. Because mental health matters, here and everywhere.
Hello everyone, welcome to our Mental Health Day podcast. And I'm Hesadi, I will be your host for today. And I have my amazing friend Warshi joining us from Christchurch. So we were both two teenagers who moved into New Zealand at a very young age. And we're here to talk about the challenges that we faced as immigrants, trying to navigate our life in New Zealand, trying to make this Whatu Ora our home. And Warshi, do you want to do a brief introduction about yourself?
I moved to New Zealand at the age of 17 all by myself to pursue my higher education. I have my degree at Victoria University of Wellington, majoring in HR and minoring in marketing. It was a journey coming to New Zealand, leaving everything that I knew behind. And I'm here to share my story with you today.
Thank you here for joining us today.
It's great to be here and to share my experience with you. So, when I initially came here, I just finished my O-levels, and the next thing I knew was getting on a plane and coming to New Zealand. And I knew no one except myself, and I was dealing with a lot of emotions like homesickness.
So you said that you moved in just after you did your O-levels. Do you mind telling me how was life after, or maybe the point that you stepped on in Wellington? Were you excited to be in New Zealand, and what was your main goal in migrating to New Zealand?
To be honest, when I came to New Zealand, I had no idea of the history because, to be honest, I initially wanted to go to Australia and not New Zealand, and it was my mom who forced me to come to New Zealand.
Hasn't gone wrong, has it?
So initially when I came here, I had no goals, nothing. The only goal that I had was, oh my god, my parents are spending so much of money, I need to complete my degree. That was the only thing that was in my head. But I think I feel very alienated as well because when I first came, I had no idea what the culture here was and where to go. And also I was just 17 years old. I was very legal, and it was so hard to think for myself sometimes.
And that is a very powerful point right there you raised, that you basically knew nothing when you moved into New Zealand, and it was more like you were just being dragged from here and put on there, and then life was asking you to figure it out. Now you're here, so it's I think it's a huge challenge for a 17-year-old to navigate around. And let's talk about the main issue that we both faced. I know that I faced this hugely when I moved into New Zealand: homesickness. Warshi, what is homesickness for you? Let's start from there.
I think that is such an important point, Hesadi. It's so easy to isolate yourself when you're feeling down. You feel like no one gets it, so you just retreat. For me, it was conscious effort to put myself out there, and I joined a few clubs at university. For example, for our viewers, Hesadi and I, we started a SriLankan club at Victoria University of Wellington. Yes. That was a great point. That was a great way of me connecting with my culture. And also we created sort of a community, creating a home away from home for all Sri Lankan students at Victoria University of Wellington. Yes. And that was a game changer.
For me, I would say the homesickness for me was definitely my friends and the food and the family and the school. So that was the homesickness for me when I moved into New Zealand. I feel like my muscles was aching. I didn't want to leave my room. Literally that. So I don't think anyone would believe me when I say this, because now I'm very outgoing. I'm like, oh, people, I want to talk to you. But but that is me now. But going back to 2016, when I moved into New Zealand, for me, homesickness was not having the taste of the food. It tasted different, and even the water, it tasted different in New Zealand, and not having the friends that I had, and it was very hard for me. I'm like, where am I? They said this is a place for better. We all migrated into New Zealand to have a better quality of life, and I was questioning myself, what is this quality that they're talking about? I don't have my food, I don't have my friends, I can't do anything, because obviously the language was a barrier when we started our journey here in New Zealand. I was like, I don't want to make any friends, and I think it was for me mostly it was understanding, okay, now this is my home, this is New Zealand, and I have no option but to
Survive.
make this my home. Do you want to talk a bit about that, on how to, like, how did you open yourself up to new connections, and not feeling like, oh, like, okay, I don't know when I'm really supposed to say this, but you know how when you came from Sri Lanka, I think you might have definitely heard, or don't associate Sri Lankans, there are backstabbers.
Yeah.
But then you had to quite unlearn that concept to really, like, what do you call it, to navigate through university. Do you want to talk a bit about that, on how you made these people connections?
Definitely heard that term before, or like Sri Lankans are backstabbers, like try to associate less with Sri Lankans.
Yes.
That's why because initially I wanted to go to Australia, but that's what my mom said. My mom was like, no, there's too many Sri Lankans in Australia, you might as well go to New Zealand where there's less Sri Lankans. But jokes on her.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to set boundaries as well, because it's not just Sri Lankans, just with everyone. It's very important to set boundaries, but also finding that community, love, and finding your people, because not everyone's bad. Like, there are so
Yeah.
many good people, and it doesn't like come down to your race or your religion. Like, it's anyone. Like, anyone can be good or bad. So it's important
Exactly.
that you set your boundaries and find your people. When I first came to, when I started the club at Victoria, when both of us started the club at Victoria, I think how I opened up myself was to find a connection. To be honest, when we do meet Sri Lankans, we already have that connection. Like, oh, we are like already abroad. Like we're both Sri Lankans. We have that connection. But like finding your connection, obviously through food. I remember like that one event that we did right after the event, we just went and grabbed Sri Lankan food because that's what we needed. I would just say putting yourself out there, finding connections, even just like mutual friends, be like, oh my god, like you went to this school, you went to that school. I feel like that's also like a big part in Sri Lanka as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got friends from this school, do you know them? I feel like that's like one of my major connecting points as well.
So that's a very important point that you raised there, Warshi, that it's not we can't just label people as, oh, you are this, you're from this country, you're from this country, so you're bad. It's not how we should, it's not the mindset that we should have as immigrants, because from my experience, what I can say is there's nothing in my life that I've only achieved by myself. I've always had support, I've always had friends, I've always had this amazing people who supported me through this journey. And if I had the mindset that, oh, I don't want to associate with them, I don't think I'll be here right now talking.
Thank you. Like, if I had that close mindset, oh, I shouldn't be associating with Sri Lankans, I don't think I would have ever met you. And I feel like through my journey, when I first initially came to New Zealand, even though we met by chance and we had that connection, I feel like you played like a big role in my life as well. Like, for example, you bought me Sri Lankan food, because when I initially came to when I initially came to New Zealand, I stayed at a homestay, and also I stayed at a catered hall, and the food wasn't really that good.
Yeah, we can say that.
Yes, and during that time, I mean, it lacked the spiciness, it lacked the Sri Lankan pizzazz, and
Yes.
you always like bought me food whenever we have like classes together. You always bought me like an extra pack of lunch,
Yes.
or like your mom like cooks food for me. Like it, I feel like it's really important, and I'm very grateful for that. And thank you so much,
Oh, thank you
Hesadi.
so
You
much.
played like such a big part in my life.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's great to hear that. Thank you very much. And yeah, the reason why I bought food for you is because that is something, as I said, food was a major thing that I missed when I was in New Zealand, and I knew that all the like everyone else would feel the same way. So making food and distributing it was my passion. Like, or this like homesickness is something that is very, it's, I think it's not talked very much, but that is a very common issue that 99.9% of the immigrants have. Let's talk about a new immigrant who doesn't know anything about New Zealand. Speaking of yourself, you were the same person. You're the person that I'm talking about right now, maybe. What advice would you give them in terms of expectations when you migrate?
I would say that some of the friendships that I had in Sri Lanka won't stay the same. It's gonna change, and you'll be finding new friends.
Yes.
Because I feel like about pretty much about 80% of my friends, I lost them because I moved abroad. And you lose that connection. I mean, it's not like both parties' fault, but it's because, like when you migrate to another country, it's a race. Like everyone's struggling to cover their living cost. Everyone's struggling to get their visa. Everyone's struggling to find a job, complete their studies. Pretty much every immigrant's in a race somehow. And because of that, it's very hard to like keep up.
Yeah.
So I feel like the advice that I would give my younger self is that don't worry, like you'll lose friends, but at the same time you'll also make friends in New Zealand.
Yeah, you definitely lose some friendships when you lose that connection, but then you should be open to making new connections.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you are in New Zealand now, no matter what. You are in another country now, no matter what. Now navigate yourself from there. So you need to be open to that connections. And now it's another point that raises from that is, Warshi, now that, as you said, we lose 80% of our connections, and now we want to fill that 80%. But when you move into New Zealand, you see a whole new world, and it's like you're free, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And the need to fit in, to fill that
Mhm.
to fill that void can be quite dangerous, right? So I want to know what your tips were in terms of how did you navigate the need to fit in. It was always there for me, I must say. It was all, I don't know whether it was there for you, but I wanted to fit in, and I was like, oh, this is very fun. But I always had that extra layer of protection because I moved in with my parents. But Warshi, you might have a different perspective on it, and I'm interested in listening to your one. How did you navigate the need to fit in and not take the risks? You know what I mean?
First of all, like, yeah, like feeling is sometimes it's important, but also it is important that you don't lose yourself while you're trying to fit in. You should keep true to like your personality and what your values are as well. Let's say you hang out with this is an example. You hang out with a group of friends who drink, and then because you want to fit in, you drink a lot. I mean, not like drink a lot, but like just because you want to fit in, you drink. I don't think, and if your values are that, oh, I don't want to drink, like these are my values, that like it could be religion or just your personal values in general. I feel like you could lose yourself because you're trying to fit in, and you
Yes,
become another person that you don't want to be from the beginning.
Yes, that is. I think that's a very powerful message. Just hold your core. You like your foundation should be your values. And I think for me, the need to fit in, it was more about finding my people rather than trying to fit to the people who are already there. Like I went to high school in New Zealand, and it was different, and there was some, and I was like, I really want to be in that group, but then I was like, well, I need to like sculpt myself to a whole different person to be in that friend group. And I was like, is it really worth it? And I'm fortunate that I always had guidance from the first generation. I must say, I need to raise this fact. People said that, as you said, we were told to stay away from away from our own people, but then the wiseness that I've got was from my first generation, associating this first generation in the cultural activities. And because I had that wiseness within me, I knew that it was not worth it to sculpt myself to just feel that 80% of the connections that we lost, right? And it can be quite dangerous. I think we've all seen examples where it can be quite dangerous. But then again, moving on to the mental health, when you don't fit in, that can be draining. It's about the quality of the friendship rather than the amount of friends you have. Warshi, I'm so fortunate to have you, and
I don't think you need to like change your values to fit in. I think it's important that you find your people that have the same values as you. I think it's really possible. I mean, if you hang out with the correct group, I think you're more likely to meet your people. It could be as simple as like if you got like a shared love for cuisine, shared love for games or cars, and that's how like I find my friends as well. Like, I mean, both of us, we got like love for Sri Lanka, and we got like mutual friends, and I feel like we also share the same values, and that's how like we became so like our friendship became so strong. Yeah, just things like that in general. Just you you don't have to like fit in.
Yeah, exactly. You like if you find a tribe where you don't have to scout, like you can walk into that group being yourself. I think that's where my people are.
And also, I think as you grow older, because when you're young, for me personally, when I was in Sri Lanka, I had so many friends. Like, I couldn't even like count them on my fingers. I had so many friends. And then when I came here, I lost majority of them. And then it made me realize it's not the number of friends it's about the quality of friends that respects your privacy, respects your boundaries, and just cares for you. So those are the people that really matters.
The privacy, Varshi. In Sri Lanka, the friends that I had, like the close friends, I'm just only going to talk about the friends that I can reach out for support. Those friends I had, I knew them since what, year 5, year 4. So those are that's a very strong connection that I think it's unbeatable, the unbeatable connection. But when you move into New Zealand, you make connections with mutual friends, right? Like the privacy like sometimes can be lost there because for example I'm friends with your partner, and like we share the common group of friends, but we both knew each other before we both got into relationships, so our connection is stronger there. But for the families that move into New Zealand with their partners, with their children, they kind of share the same amount of friends, and they don't have the privilege to reach out to a trusted friend. It could be a relationship problem. It could be something that is completely out of the relationship that's very personal to you. And how do you think that a person like that should what should they do? In your point of view, what should they do in terms of reaching out for support?
I mean, a simple phone call would do. That's what I do. Like whenever I'm feeling down, I call my friends, like my close friends. I call my parents because sometimes it's good to have like that perspective from your parents, like what they think is best for you. Like I said before, it's all about boundaries, and if your friends don't respect your boundaries and your privacy, that's a red flag there for you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it. And I think it's again comes back to finding that one quality friend. What advice that I would give for a immigrant who's coming here is that the technology is very, very, very what do you call it? It's great now. We can reach out to your friends in Sri Lanka, but always just have that expectation that you're not going to have the same life when you come into New Zealand.
It's not going to be the same, and I feel like people exaggerate moving abroad, but it's not that like dream paradise that you think of. It's actually like a struggle and a race. You're always like racing to be the first, and also that pressure. Like for example, I've got so much of pressure because I'm the only child. So I've got expectations to meet from my parents to find like a good job to like when I initially came here to complete my degree, because they spend a lot of money like sending me here, and that guilt is always there with you. Oh my god, like if I'm out with my friends, I would feel guilty, and I would come home and just like do my studies because I'm like, oh my god, my mom is paying so much for my fees, I need to study. and that could also be a bit bad for your mental health, I would say, because you're always like on that race to do well in life, and you can't disappoint anyone.
Yeah, that is people do exaggerate that the life. I mean, it's not really life is hard in general for everyone, but it's more about the way when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. Ultimately, we all come to New Zealand to get a better quality of life, and if you really don't see it that way, it can be draining. And Varshi, I thank you so much for raising that with me, saying that you felt guilty hanging out and spending time for yourself when your parents spend so much. It's a fortune. It is definitely a fortune that they spend on you, and you go back and studying. But it's more about, for me, it's more about finding the balance, right? You need to have the good mental space to do your studies well, and sometimes it can be just going on a solo date, go out for a coffee shop, read that chapter that you always wanted to read, and just have that connection. Or maybe just buy flowers. I've bought flowers for myself. I love buying flowers for myself. But yeah, I've done that, and then I was like, it feels good. It gives you like fuel for the next 2 weeks, and then you can just go off for another solo coffee date to fuel up for the month. I think having that time for yourself and hanging out with friends is really important. It's a very important thing that when you come to New Zealand, yes, the pressure is real. Yes, you have to study. Yes, you have to find a good job. Yes, you have to pay your rent. But you cannot do any of these if you're not willing to, you know? What is the next big thing that was bothering you, or that you felt a bit homesick apart from food? Friends, what is the next thing, Warshi, for you?
The next thing, I mean, obviously family. But other than that, I think the next big thing was the community as well. I would say, because in Sri Lanka, everyone's like very close. Everyone's in everyone's businesses, but it's not as bad as it sounds. It can be good. Like, for example, like, you know, when Auru comes, we share food. We go to each other's like neighborhood parties. But here I don't find that connection, even though I try to. Like, for example, I don't know who my neighbor is.
That's very this.
Yeah, there is like, I feel like there's no community connection except like when you put out yourself like out there and you try to have a connection with the Sri Lankan community. Like, that was really helpful for me when I initially first came here, and thanks to you, I got introduced to the Sri Lankan community in Wellington. That really helped my mental health as well, because, for example, going to out of the festivals, going for Christmas parties, and you get to meet all these people who pretty much has the same experience as you, and it's very nice to like get in touch with your culture. And yeah, I mean, that's how I found my community connection in New Zealand, by connecting with the Sri Lankan community. But yeah, that was like a big challenge for me as well, because I was like, oh, like even when I was staying in the dorm rooms, like not everyone wanted to be like friends and have that connection with you. Like, for example, I didn't know who my next door like dorm member was, but I would say if it was in Sri Lanka, I'm pretty sure like we would have been like really good friends.
That's a very powerful point, Marsha. Again, if I'm giving this message to a new immigrant who's coming to New Zealand or who's already in New Zealand now, it's not what we had in Sri Lanka. Like everyone knew each other. We had all these protective layers in Sri Lanka. We had protection from family. We had protection from our extended family. We had protection from our friends. We had protection from our neighbors. When you come into New Zealand, you don't even have the core protection, right? You need to protect yourself.
You're just protecting yourself.
Yes, you need to protect yourself. But then again, so like every bit of this adds into homesickness. Community was a great example. I was fortunate enough that I moved in with my family again, and my extended family was here, so I ultimately had that connection indirectly with the community. And after a few months in being in my room, and I'm like, you know what, I'll just go into the community, and well, here I am, and with some amazing like the wiseness that I have is from the first generation, I must say. I got involved in many community events. I learned a lot, like a lot of soft skills that that was quite crucial for me to learn to navigate in New Zealand. I was involved in a musical band, Next Generation, where it was a group of friends who were similar age levels, have gone through similar things. We made great friends. We made amazing friends there. So I was quite fortunate enough to have that indirect connection, which I now nurture and then drag my friends like you into like, you need to come to the Hour of the Festival. That is where I was constantly trying to make New Zealand my home because I had no choice, right? And if what I'm saying is, if I have been mentally down because I was not in Sri Lanka. But what I'm saying to a new immigrant is that this is a common feeling that Warshi, you've been through that, I've been through that, and I bet everyone has. And what I'm saying to them is like, go to the community activities, go to the musical shows, go to any place where you meet your people, and that's where you get connections, right? I still don't know my neighbors. I've been living in this house for about 4 years, but then when we know people, a person that we know moved into the next, like that's how we make connections, like put yourself out into the community. That's a very
I like that point you made about going to concerts, because I love going to the Sri Lankan concerts here, because when I was in Sri Lanka, I didn't listen much to Sri Lankan songs, because I was always trying to be exposed to the Western songs. But when I came to New Zealand, I'm like, oh my God, I need to listen to some Sri Lankan songs.
I need some baila going on.
Yeah,
come on, give that to me.
And then going to concerts can be really helpful for your mental health as well. I remember a few years ago we went to the Patti Santosh concert, and that was amazing. I feel so happy. I feel so happy for at least 2 weeks, and it was so good for my mental health. I don't know. I don't know how, but it helped me so much just going to that concert.
I mean, anything to have with the feeling of home would fuel us to navigate a year and a year and a year. So when the time passes, then you make new connections, and sometimes you don't want to go back to Sri Lanka. You ultimately make this your home. And Warshi, I want to raise, I think we have covered most of the things, so that I'm going to just summarize what we talked about. So we both navigated to New Zealand as teenagers, and we wanted to address about the homesickness and how it could affect your mental health, right? And we talked about 3 important facts in here, which is first the food. I want to raise something here, Warshi. So we were both teenagers, but for a family who has moved into New Zealand, the food is crucial. Like in Sri Lanka, my mom used to cook 3 times a day. She cooked breakfast, she cooked lunch, she cooked dinner. But when you come to New Zealand, you cannot do that. You literally don't have the time to do it, and it's very expensive in New Zealand to cook 3 times a day. And I think you have gone to meal plans. I know that I have gone to meal plans now. For a family who's moving here, I think because this food thing I think this makes me sound like very much of a foodie, but that's what I want to say is that this is a very common thing that people don't really talk about, right? The time, because sometimes people have to do 2 jobs. You have children and you need to take care of their needs, and then cooking, and then they're wanting that Sri Lankan food. If you don't have that, then it affects your mental health. So what I'm saying is there are people I think there are people in Christchurch, there are people in Auckland, there are definitely people in Wellington who does that for a living. They prepare Sri Lankan foods, they give the spices that we want, and then they prepare the meal plans for us. And then it's more about being methodical in navigating your life in a foreign country until you settle. And once you settle, then you know what to do. So there are resources in Wellington, there are resources all around in New Zealand for Asians like us to have that long wanting food and navigate our life easily in New Zealand.
Of course. For me, when I first initially started cooking, I think it's probably my 3rd year in New Zealand, I started properly cooking Sri Lankan food. And for that, it was very hard because you can't find all the ingredients you need at New World or Pack and Save. You can't just find it at a supermarket. You have to go to specific groceries. Sometimes you go to the Asian grocery, sometimes you go to the Sri Lankan store. But even when you make those, to be honest, I feel going to those stores can be a bit more expensive than going to the supermarket. only because I mean I understand the markup prices, but even like that can be quite a barrier as well for some people who are like initially like coming to New Zealand, finding like trying to cover their cost of living, trying to make Sri Lankan food. So it's about like sometimes even for me, even a simple like rice and like dal curry, like paripu would do for me. Like it would make my day much better.
You should adjust. I think adjustment, being camouflaged, is a major thing when you move. Like, have that expectation you can't cook 3 meals a day. If you really want Sri Lankan food, if you're craving for that, there are people who do that. I think we need to find the way that works for us. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And also like the first thing I think I like, not the first thing, but like one of the things that I did when I like initially came to Wellington was to like look for Sri Lankan restaurants or like cafes.
Yes. But not that. I think this has been a common issue that people have started making a living out of making Sri Lankan food and giving it to families. Yeah. And the next thing that we raised was the importance of not the importance of, but the importance of having the connections, importance of having the friends, and the need to fit in, which can be quite dangerous. And what we've covered there is just hold your core values, have that expectation that you're going to lose some connections, and be open to new connections, but do not try to fit in a way that you have to be a whole different person. It can be rewarding at that point, but it can drain you long term. And the next thing that we covered is the importance of community, and these are great points that you raised, Warshi. I'm just elaborating on the things that you've said. The community for me has done miracles, and it is great having that connection, having that shared knowledge from the first generations. It's always a ladder, like it's that's how the nature goes, like the connections that we have, the wiseness that we get. And I think that is also very important for the families who come migrate here as immigrants, to have that connection to their kids, have that connection to their partners, and it can build up, it can step you up. So I think we will wrap this episode by saying you have support in New Zealand, but then you need to have this expectation that your life is different. It's definitely going to be different from Sri Lanka, but then you can make this a mini Sri Lanka. You can make this a place that you want. You can make this Aotearoa a place that you love. And definitely want to raise these things, Warshi. We all need support, definitely for mental health. Then physical health, you can visually see what's wrong, but mental health you can't. And there were numerous times that I have reached into free support systems in New Zealand, just to because I didn't know what was happening. As we said, we both been through this, and it can be quite draining. We will post all the links on this, the support systems in New Zealand, in the link below. Please go visit them if you really need some help. And there are targeted support in New Zealand for Asian immigrants, and your local medical center is very supportive. You can, the privacy part is so the privacy part that we told that we sometimes would miss, that is protected in these organizations. And Aotearoa is doing a great job to make sure that all the people in New Zealand are being supported for the mental health. Mental health crisis is not something that is avoidable. It will come to us at a point. It can come to us in different ways. And please reach out to those support systems. And it is your ultimate responsibility to build your support system with all these 3 things that we've covered, Warshi. Do you wanna say, and thank you so much for everything that you've said. I loved how you structured everything, and it gave me something that we could keep going and keep talking around. And I think we could talk more, but then in terms of this tiny episode, I don't want people to get bored. But yeah, what are your key messages to the immigrants who moved into New Zealand?
It's pretty much the same points that you raised as well. Like, don't lose yourself, just stick to your core values. And also, mental health can be something that sometimes can be a taboo in our community, like from where we come from, like Sri Lanka. Not many people believe in mental health, but just ignore that, because right now, like especially when you come to new country, it's sometime, like for some people it's guaranteed like that your mental health will go down, like it did for me, it did for you. So it's really important that you ask for this help as well. And another key point is you need to connect, like with Sri Lankan roots, for example, can be through food, like Hesadi raised so many times, through like going to concerts, going to events. It could be even simple as just like putting on your like earphones and just listening to some Sri Lankan baila.
Yeah, and self-love is something that I want to raise there too. I'm just, well, life in New Zealand is expensive, but there's no that you can't spare $5 for you. Go out for a coffee, go out for a walk. New Zealand is beautiful, and embrace that. And I want to do special thanks for Warshi for joining us today with your busy schedule, and I wish you all the very best for your higher studies. I know you have an assignment due very soon, but thank you so much for making time. And special thanks for Anuraji Auntie and the Sri Lankan's team for giving us this platform. Anuraji Auntie, you've been a key role model and a senior who has shaped me for the person who I am right now. So thank you so much. A huge shout out for you and Sri Lankan's team as being amazing as always to provide this platform to reach the immigrants, that reach the targeted people that we want to give this message to. So that's a wrap, Warshi, and maybe hopefully see you in the next episode.
Having me, Hesadi.
Of course.
Okay.